Hey tenors, glad you're coming back for our virtual rehearsal. We are working on And Can It Be? This is something that we will do once we're all able to get back together along with the other pieces that we've been rehearsing. And so if you'll pull out this piece, we're just going to take it right from the beginning. So right off the bat, I really want you to think about kind of the context of this piece. This is, even though we won't get to sing it during Lent, this is really a very Lent-oriented kind of the heaviness of realizing Jesus and God's sacrifice for us, but yet being grateful for that too. So all of that plays in right where we come in for our entrance. It looks like it's measure 7. Measure 7. Amazing. So remember, we talked about this before. This is a little mumbly. Now, what I mean by that is just it doesn't have the tremendous support that you would sing with ordinarily. Amazing, amazing love, how can it be? More on the light mechanism, kind of chanty, giving ourselves room to build as we continue this phrase. So right where we come in, measure 7. Pianissimo, distant. Think about, have all these thoughts in your head. We're very soft, as though from a distance, and very thoughtful. Ready, and amazing love, how can it be? Was your eval round? Okay, and this is all lady stuff there. Yes, so even just that first 2 measures, there's so much that we can make sure that we've got. Was your eval round? Was it beautiful and thoughtful? Did you crescendo ever so slightly on love? Let's try that one more time. Amazing love. Make sure we get all the nuances that we can. 3 and 4 and amazing love, how can it be? And then it starts. Let's take it tenors where you guys come in over pickups to measure 17. Amen. Now be real confident on this entrance because you come in one full beat before everyone else does. So I will cue you on that, and just when we get together, we'll work on that. But just know that you come in on beat 3, everyone else comes in on beat 4. Here we go, amazing. And 1 and 2. Just a couple of notes before we go on. Just make sure, as we always do, that you have a long note. That every time you have a long note, particularly bottom of page 3, amazing love, amazing love. Those long notes have a little push. The long notes always grow, almost always, into that next phrase. So we want to make sure we push those phrases. We just don't sit on those notes, but they go forward. Those of you that work with Linda, I'm sure know exactly what I'm talking about. And then notice that we're on page 4, we're arriving at God. God is the crescendo of that phrase, and then we pull away and go back to the next verse. So let's try that phrase one more time. Pickups into 14. Making sure we phrase this just as beautifully as we can. Make sure your jaw is low, that we've got resonant space. I can tell by looking at your mouth, if I were to, whether or not you're singing properly. And if you're singing like this and your lips are moved, it takes much more effort to sing than that. Amazing love. I want to hear that in my mind of you doing that. Here you go. Amazing. And 1 and 2. Amazing love, in crescendo, breathe. Little motion, breathe deep. section. I can hear in my mind you doing beautiful work on this. Just a couple things to point out. So page 5 is a little leapy in our intervals. So make sure, and we'll work on this when we get together, make sure you really hear those intervals where it kind of leaps. And I'm looking particularly at measure 31. It is grace. That's one place where it does. Also in measure 35. So I want to be real sure that we're not kind of guesstimating where those notes are, but we really have it in our head exactly where those are. That was number 1. Number 2 was, notice on the bottom of page 5, we get from very rhythmic stuff to where we're holding long notes. So make sure those notes have support. They're beautiful and they all go somewhere. And I want you to notice something at the bottom of page 5. We go back to an E flat. Even though the top note changes, the bottom note stays the same for 3 or 4 measures every time. So we're always anchored back to that E flat at the bottom of page 5 on Mercy. So let's take that first. Let's take pickups into measure 36. Tis what do we do on long notes? What do we always do on long notes? Even though it's just a little bit. It's just a little crescendo because we don't want to cover up what the ladies are doing on top. But we have to move that phrase forward. Music has to move forward or it dies, just like everything else. So all these long notes have a slight crescendo, always going back to that E flat. Let's try. Tis mercy, and 2, and breathe. Tis mercy, fall and breathe. So breathe. Notice that the long note on God in measure 41 actually decrescendos because we're going into another part of the phrase. Let's try He left His Father's throne above, and listening carefully to the intervals that are a little more tricky to hear. He left His Father's throne above. 3 and 4 and He left His Father's throne above. So sorry, all of a sudden I was looking at the bass section. It's been a long morning. All of a sudden I started singing the bass. But let's get into that from Amazing Love. And notice we've got the crescendo into measure 47. Amazing Love, how can it be? And forte, no condemnation. Now I love. And long held notes, and in this case it's the B, that dotted half. Is where we can get the most money out of our crescendo. So let's take it top of page 7, continue on, 3 and 4 and amazing love, how can it be? No condemnation now I dread, Jesus and love in this talk about how to produce these high Ds. Because when we get into that register, above our staff, above C, it's very easy to kind of sing with the spread vowel and to let those notes stick out. And so we really have to be careful that our jaw is dropped, that we've got plenty of space in the back. And I'm looking particularly at page 8. Him is mine, alive in him. It has to have that resonance. Otherwise, we get something that'll poke out of the choir and not sound good. Him is mine, alive in him. You can see the shape of my mouth is shallow and not producing the sound. And him is mine. Practice this in the shower, if you will, because that'll help you hear your resonance. Him is mine, alive in him, my living head. And making sure we've got that nice round sound. Nothing sticking out, no edge to your sound, just beautiful and in the context of what we're doing. Let's try it again at the bottom of page 7. No ready, and no condemnation now I dread. Jesus and all his name is mine. All now, and alive in him my living head, and all in righteousness the whole thing here is exactly what I just talked about in terms of making sure that we've got lots of space, that everything is making the room spin, and that because if you sing spread in this section, you'll poke out, and we don't want that. We want everything nice in this beautiful round cathedral-like sound. So when you're up in this high range, make sure that you're covering, which is to say you've got plenty of sound and that you're not poking out. One thing that I'm telling everyone is page 10 feels like we're winding down, that we're ending the phrase at no, nor not. We are keeping it going, so we don't decrescendo, we don't lose intensity in measure 62 and 63. This is a keeping on going into the next phrase because we've still got 8 measures of climax there. So let's try that one more time, getting into page 9. And one thing I want you to circle on the last measure of page 8 is that bold. That comes in on beat 3. It comes in a beat earlier than it has in previous iterations of this phrase. It's almost to emphasize that, bold. So we'll make sure that we're nice and solid on that. So right on that note, bold I, and 1 and 2. For the rest of the choir, we really have to work on those last 4 bars because those chords kind of come in out of the blue. But for you, it's a little easier because you just got done singing in A natural on B, and it's just a step down, So you've got the easiest part of finding that chord. Everyone else kind of has to pull it out of the blue. So you're our anchor, since you know that. Last thing I want to say about this is that the amazing love that we have at the very end, measure 74, the same kind of chanty, distant feeling that we had when we first started this. So it's almost like bookends to this. So let's just take it from the 4/4 and measure 74 to the end, and then we'll be done. 3 and 4 and amazing love, how can it be? Deep breath, support this. And 2. So that it's nice and beautiful. Good. That is going to be stunning. You've really got an amazing part in the climax where you're floating among those D's and those E's and really propelling the piece forward. It's just a stunning piece, and I look forward to singing it when we can all get back together. Thanks so much, tenors. Bye.